Coming to you Monday morning after the 49ers get their ass kicked in Buffalo 35-10. Sage, if I told you my worst case scenario for this game, it would be, I don't know, something like the Niners start off the game looking like the old Niners, only for the defense to just get torched, the offense to look anemic, and for us to get blown out. Maybe even Brock Purdy has one of the worst games as a pro. That makes you question if he's going to be the future quarterback. And maybe to cap it off, I don't know, something like Christian McCaffrey suffering a season-ending injury where you never know if he's going to be the same. Sage, all that happened last night. What a nightmare. I'm lost. I'm lost for words right now.
I mean, to just sum it up, like that game was just like the perfect sum of what the Niners have been this year, right? Like
Perfect microcosm.
Like it's exactly like perfect storm of everything that's been going wrong except blowing a lead because you never really had one unless you consider 3-0 a lead. But you got Juszczyk fumbling. You got Debo fumbling. Looking slow, right? Looking slow in the snow. Can't even break out when he has no one ahead of him except for a kicker. You got everyone getting hurt. I mean, McCaffrey gets hurt. You see Fred Warner walking to the locker room. And you just look slow and just kind of just like washed as a unit. I mean, we'll get into it bit by bit, but man, that first 5 minutes was something, and then the rest was they tricked us. I thought they were back for a second. I think everyone did.
They Pat Bev tricked us, dude. But I mean, let's just start from before the game. No Trent Williams, no Nick Bosa. You get Brock Purdy playing. If you saw him in the pregame warmups, he did not look like he had any zip on the ball. I don't think that was even the biggest issue today. But you go into a must-win game with all that BS happening. Sage, I thought they looked great to start off the game. I actually genuinely thought, I'm like, okay, maybe here come the regular Niners that we've all seen before. That lasted shortly. I mean, of course, you can't score in the red zone. The offense can't convert on third down in the red zone. You go for a field goal. Buffalo had a bad first possession, but then right away they put up 14 on you. Just carved through that defense. Jake Moody misses a field goal. From that point on, and before that, is when Christian McCaffrey got injured. Right then, 14-3, that's when the game was over. A lot of people are going to bring up the Brock Purdy fumble, the Kyle Juszczyk fumble, the Debo fumble, the fact that the defense got even more torched up in the second half when Josh Allen caught that little, I don't even know what you'd call that play, Sage, with Amari Cooper.
What did he even... It's like a hook and ladder, but I don't like everyone was like sucking him off. Like
that was a great play. Come on, Sage. That was box office.
I don't think
it wasn't planned, but that's just backyard football.
No, exactly. That's
what makes it cool.
No, I agree with you on that. But like you have like Collinsworth on the call just being like, oh yeah, like what a great design by Joe Brady. Like, and I'm just like, dude, I don't think that was planned. I just think that's Josh assessing the situation. You have 6 Niners trying to fucking tackle Amari Cooper, who's not a running back, he's not a big receiver, and you just leads to a wide open Josh just like hook back. He's like the best runner in open space of any quarterback, and he just gets to the pylon. You look unprepared. You can't tackle. You're not tough, and that's just what happens. I mean, you can't get the guy down. We saw it last week against the Packers. 15 missed tackles in the first half. You're struggling to bring down James Cook. You're struggling to bring down Amari Cooper, and you're getting gashed everywhere now. So the team's just going backwards. We said it, like that first 5 minutes they came out with some fucking heart, and then it looked like they quit. I don't know if they're quitting on Sorensen. I don't know if they're quitting on Shanahan, but they fucking quit. Like you can't watch that and tell me they didn't fucking quit on themselves.
So I don't know if they were like Al Pacino in Heat, where they were just chipping coke before the game, and because that was a different 49ers defense than I've seen all year. It didn't last too long. Like I said, this was an ass kicking. The Bills looked like they wanted to be there.
53 points now. Past 2 weeks, 53 points combined in your losses. When has that ever fucking happened in the past, man?
I mean, the Bills seemed like just a football team. They seemed like they wanted to be out there. They seemed like the cold, it almost made them better. It made them grittier. It just made them more motivated. The Niners, on the other hand, just fell apart. Let's be honest, Sage. Didn't even look like they wanted to be there when it got to 21-3. And like you said, it's a microcosm of everything that's happened the entire year for the 49ers, right? For the defense, you miss tackles. You give up third and longs. I mean, just everything. Jair Brown, Mooney Ward in the secondary. they looked awful. The defense couldn't stop the run. You only rush 4 guys with inferior talent, and you can't get a pass rush. So a lot of people, and I've already seen a couple people, try to give excuses for the 49ers. The weather, they weren't used to it.
Dude,
Christian
fuck
McCaffrey injury took away from the game plan on offense. No excuses. No excuses. This is just the weather. The only thing the weather did was emphasize all the issues that have been happening with this 49ers team, and it came to roost. It came to roost today, and it's looking like the end of everything.
No, I mean, the team died as soon as McCaffrey went hurt. They had some juice. He looked good. For the first time all year, he looked fucking good. They were getting push on that O-line. I mean, I wrote this.
I bet you didn't feel good about that Garendo and Mason take when you saw McCaffrey at the start of the game.
I mean,
Let's be real.
To be honest, though, Mason was getting some good runs, even with McCaffrey in there and healthy. I think so. He hurt his knee when he came down on that tackle after that big run, and then you put in Mason, he looks good. But going back, I said, because I was really just tripping out because we mentioned it. We said this game's going to be won in the trenches, which it was. 49ers couldn't get a pass rush. Anytime Brock went to pass, got immediately under pressure, had to get rid of it. But I said, going from the Eagles-Ravens game, right? And then they do the Sunday Night Football intros with your favorite when they put the PFF rating at the bottom, right? So you look at the Eagles and the Ravens O-lines. It's like top 10, top 15. And you go to the Niners. They didn't have a single motherfucker over 58 out of 70. Not one guy.
You're saying on the D-line? On the D-line or O-line?
On the Niners O-line. They didn't have a single guy above 58th rated. I
don't know about that. I saw
Pooney,
Cole McKivitz was 8th. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that. That can't be true.
I swear to God on my life. It said Cole McKivitz was 8th.
That makes you question what the fuck PFF's about. But today's
not
about PFF. Today's not about PFF. It's about the Niners. To be honest with you, this is back-to-back weeks where I don't think this is on Shanahan at all. Okay, you could get into it, the personnel.
We're going to get into it a little bit later of what got the Niners to this point. But just for the sake of this game, yeah, I don't know if it's Kyle Shanahan's play calls that I'm going to light him up for at all.
I think it comes down to Purdy. To be honest with you, this was just all about Brock Purdy to me. You see what Josh Allen is. Josh Allen's making $40 million a year. And Purdy's set to make $20, $30 million more per year than him. I can't stomach it. This just showed you everything. We talked about it. This guy struggles to throw in the fucking heat when his hands are a little sweaty. How do you think he's going to fare in snow? And we saw it, bro. I've never seen him so, I don't know if he was hurt. They said he was healthy. Shanahan and him both said he was healthy. I'll take their word for it, whatever. You're out there, you're healthy. You put out whoever gives us the best chance to win. And if you think he gives us the best chance to win, I'll live with it. But I've never seen him pump fake that much. I mean, we said it. We were texting each other. We said, he's pump faking so much, and you said, he's going to fumble one of these. He's for sure. And it happens. You fumble. You lose the fumble, of course, whatever. Just didn't seem confident in himself. They had that illegal contact or whatever where he just throws a duck down the field, gets picked off by DeMar Hamlin. And from that moment on, until they were getting fucking blown out, they had no confidence in him. They weren't calling any pass plays for him. He wasn't throwing the ball himself. He was pump faking whenever he got the opportunity. And he just lost all his confidence. And it's something you haven't seen in the Niners and haven't seen in Brock. And it just feels like the door's shut, man. It was a little glimmer. We didn't think they'd win, but we're it's the NFL. You never know. Maybe they win. If they win, they're back. Done. Done.
So we're going to get into that, but just for the Purdy conversation, I mean, for this game, clearly had no faith in either his arm or the fact that he could hold on to the ball and throw in this kind of weather. It was clear right away. I mean, try to get the ball out as early as possible. On that first drive, the 3rd and 7 to Christian McCaffrey, dude didn't even start to get into his move, threw it right at his back, right? I mean, really shaky, and the Niners didn't have a pass game. Right? I mean, did you ever feel confident that we could pass it downfield? It was only going to be the run game. That's why when we went down 2 scores, you kind of knew. You're like, we're going to have to go 1960s football to try to score on these guys. And the way that I think about it, I mean, what if we didn't chalk this up to a scheduled loss? What if this is a playoff game in Green Bay? Or just another big game to get us into the playoffs, because that's going to happen if you re-sign Brock Purdy for 5 years, because that's the conversation, right?
It has to be the biggest.
This season's over. So when we look at Brock Purdy, when we assess what he did today, You got to think about it in the sense of, are you going to re-sign this guy for $60 million over the next 5 years?
Chase.
What I'm going to say is that this is my initial reaction. And I was different at the start of the year. At the start of the year, I would have told you, we got to sign him right now.
I think
He's
2
the
weeks
guy.
ago you were making the argument.
2 weeks ago, I was making the argument, but you got the last year of his rookie contract. You got to let him play it out. You can't re-sign him because there are going to be changes coming to this Niner team. I mean, you don't know where this Niners team is going to go in the next couple of years. You don't put $250, $300 million contracts on your books when you don't know where you're going to be in the next couple of years.
I mean, we'll tie it in where how we got to this point, everything, like the Purdy conversation, it all ties together. But we said it, like, do you think for the rest of Purdy's career, they will have as much talent around him as they did last year?
No.
Exactly. And that's not to say he can't improve, because he can improve, and we've seen it in his legs. But you see it, like, you don't want like another Tua situation. Like, they're oddly similar. When the conditions are perfect, you know, they got a weaker arm. When the weather gets cold, and like even with Goff, like guys like that, like when everything is going right for them, they look fine. They look like they could be a top 5 quarterback in the league. They can make all the throws. But as soon as you put a little adversity in it, right? You got to deal with a better pass rush. You got to deal with the weather. You got to deal with heat. You got to deal with wind. You got to deal with rain. You got to deal with snow. They're clearly not the same guys, right? I just chalk it up. You're a Jag. You know what that is? Just another guy. You're a Jag.
100%.
Purdy's just another guy. And if you're looking to pay him, it's like we say it like in the NBA. When do you get fucked? It's not when you pay superstars what they deserve. It's when you play mid-level guys as if they're superstars, because you can't get off those contracts. I mean, look at what happened with the Broncos. They paid Russell Wilson $50 million just to get the fuck off their team. Do you want a situation like, and look at how much better they are without him. Like, do you want a situation like that? You can't just pay this guy because you know, okay, we've been in quarterback hell. We know what it could be like. You'd rather be in that, rather be building up, than have this guy on your books for 4 years making $67 million and you're just stuck because the roster's going to keep going down. How did they get to this point? It's because they fucked up every move. They have no studs. They have no young studs on that roster anymore. Everyone's getting old, and now everyone's injured. So what could you do? You have like no identity. You have nowhere you could just turn to like help him out. It's on him. He's bearing the burden of the franchise on his shoulders, and he just can't carry it. You look at the other side of the field. Can you seriously tell me with a straight face that Josh Allen had more talent on that offense than we do on ours?
So this is what I'll say. You're right, Sage. Just looking at this team and what the depth of this entire roster is going to be if you sign Brock Purdy at $60 million a year, you can't justify it. I mean,
you're going to get fucked if you do. You're going to get fucked.
Let's think about it, Sage.
Let's think.
Can you really trust a quarterback where if it's 90 degrees and his hands get a little sweaty, that's an actual reason why the ball could just fall out of his hand and he could have a bad game? Can you justify paying a quarterback $60 million where if there's a little bit of rain, he can't complete a pass 10 yards downfield? We just saw what he did in the snow. If the conditions aren't perfect where it comes to weather and his team, the guy clearly isn't the same. Like I said, I like Brock. I like the mobility aspect of his game. I think mentally he's very sound. And that's something that you need at the quarterback position. I hate to do this, but there's a reason he was the last pick in the draft, right?
100%.
It's the physical attributes. It's the arm. And once you take away something or you throw in adverse conditions, he looks like the last pick in the draft.
No,
okay?
It's straight up. It's straight up. Like, you look at these franchises, right? Like, you look at these, like, you know, good guys at quarterback who never won it, but their franchise is stuck to them. That's how you don't win. You look at like a Phillip Rivers situation, right? You look at like a Matt Ryan situation. I know these guys got close, but unless they like pull something out of their ass like Flacco or Eli Manning where they just go on Cinderella runs in the playoffs, like, you look at these teams, they keep turning because they don't want to be mediocre or bad at quarterback, and it gets you nowhere. You go like 10, 15 years just like kind of middling, and then once those guys leave, you're kind of fucked, right? So why would you want to do that with Brock? I mean, him not being able to throw in the heat should have been an immediate red flag. Like, really? This guy can't throw in the fucking heat? Like, it's not just the wind or the rain. Like, what the fuck is that?
So this is what I'll say, though, Sage. I'm just saying for this next year, don't dive into it right away. You're still only paying him about, what, $1 million next year?
Yeah, 500 something.
There's going to be a lot of questions answered next year, okay? There's going to be a lot of people that are cut. We're going to have to retool this roster. Brock, you got to fight next year for that contract. You got to prove it to us again because you've had some ugly games this year. You've had some ugly games. When everything fell around you, you weren't able to lift a team up and get us to the playoffs somehow. Get us across that mark to win the NFC West. You know who can do that? The guy you were going up against on Sunday. How many times have we seen the Bills just defense wrecked with injuries? No offensive weapons. I mean, I like some of the wide receivers. You don't really like the wide receivers on the Bills. We can both agree that they're not household names, except for Amari Cooper, who you just got a couple weeks ago.
I mean, what did their wide receivers even do yesterday? It was just all running and all the fear of Josh. That's what created all those holes and everything.
That's a max level contract quarterback right there.
100%.
That dude is an absolute stud. That's a franchise quarterback. You tie your entire future to that guy. And it's just hard for me to say that that's Purdy. It really is. It looked ugly. It looked really ugly. And like I said, I'm the optimist. Sage is the pessimist. You can't, if you're a 49ers fan or a 49ers guy in the media, there's no way you could stand on the podium and be like, Brock Purdy should get signed no matter what. He's done enough. Give him $60 million a year. It was ugly. Uglier than I've seen, I think, in the entire NFL all year. It was that bad. It was that bad.
I mean, this is a new low. This is like an entirely new low because it's just everything. Like, it's like anything that could have gone wrong. And it's 3 weeks in a row now you see it where it's just like there's really nothing to hang your hat on. Like, there's nothing to hang your coat on. Like, what do they do well? What is their identity? What is their culture? What is something you look at this team and you're like, okay, at least they have that. Like, people want to draw comparisons when they talk about the Niners don't need a rebuild. They need a retool. And they look at that Philly team
that's
from
what I
last
think.
year. But you look at like the people pointing to that Philly team from last year. The Niners are light years behind what that Philly team was.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about what got us here. I think me and Chase are gonna come to the same conclusion as to why the Niners, how it fell so fast. But I mean, just look at like everything that could have gone wrong yesterday. It went wrong. Debo, I mean, he's clearly washed. Your first round pick's a bust. 3 weeks in a row now.
3 weeks in a row without a catch.
I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I want to give this guy a chance, but come on, man. Like, that could have been used in so many other spaces. Like, you spend a first-round pick on this guy, and he can't help you with shit. He's, like, literally, like, he's a nothing now.
Look at around the roster, Sage. Look at that interior D-line. Did you see what that Buffalo Bills O-line was doing to some of those guys?
Yeah, they were on the
first
fucking ass.
Look
Every fucking
at,
opportunity, they were on
hold
their
on.
fucking
So
ass.
this is for the crowd to go back and look at it. Look at the first 3rd and 1 that Josh converted on their first scoring drive. Kevin Givens gets pushed 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage. Okay? These guys are scrubs. You have to sign guys like Devondre Campbell. Jair Brown is a starting safety. Okay? You've seen that just these kind of signings and not prioritizing positions other than wide receivers in the first round the past few years. That's what happens to the team. You got to put in inferior talent at starting positions, and it's starting to bite the Niners in the ass. You have an old team. You pay a bunch of old guys. They get injured. It just emphasizes that. Multiplies the shitty players that you got to put out on the field. The Niners don't have anybody to blame but themselves.
I mean, we said, this week was just a microcosm of everything, right? Whole year. Debo looks washed. Debo fumbles. Debo can't take back kicks. Debo can't do anything in space. Why is Kyle Juszczyk on the field? You're at the 1 fucking yard line with a chance to make the game interesting as you start to gain momentum. Fumble. Not only does he fumble at the 1, the Bills pick it up, take it all the way to the 45. And why don't they take it to the house? Because your quarterback with a hurt shoulder has to run down the field and lower his hurt shoulder into the DB to stop it from being a touchdown, right? This guy shouldn't be on the field. We've been calling it. Then you go down more, and we start to see what the team's been lacking, right? Some explosiveness. You get Mason involved. You get Guerrero involved. You sort of start to see like, okay, they have some burst, they have some playmakers, but it seems like they're not using their best assets. So it starts from the top. And now it's too little too late. The season is basically washed. You look at all the mistakes that John Lynch has made in this draft process in evaluating talent. I mean, yeah, they've hit on some good guys in the past, but
They fucked it up. They fucked it up,
blinded.
Sage.
it really blinded. Like, it's great when you get Fred Warner in the third or fourth, but when you're taking McGlinchey or Kinlaw in the first, and you're taking Ayuk when you have the chance to get Jefferson, or Kinlaw when you have the chance to get Tristan Wirfs, and you see like the long-term impacts it has. You had your chance to win. And it just shows you, like, you need to get young guys in the building, right? Look at the fucking Eagles. They went down, but look at their last 3 first-round picks while the Niners had to sit with their thumb up their ass. They got Jalen Carter. They got Jordan Davis. They got Kenyon Mitchell. Like, they have 3, like, Pro Bowl-level guys that are all below the age of 24 starting on their defense now. They were able to build that defense through the draft while the Niners couldn't because they had Trey Lance, like, just sitting in another
Sage,
building.
this is what it comes down to.
Tell me.
At the start of the window, you had Jimmy G. Clearly, he's not that good of a quarterback. Whatever we saw on the field, whatever success he had, was because of Kyle Shanahan, because of the system around him. They must have seen him practice, oh, okay, this guy's not that good. This guy's not that good. But you don't go for Tom Brady, okay? You don't go for Tom Brady. The next year, you realize Jimmy G's not the guy. Of course. 1 year later, after passing up on Tom Brady, because you like this guy so much, you realize he's not going to be it for us. You trade 3 first-round picks, Sage, to get Trey Lance. He's the biggest. He's the biggest.
For a second.
I'm just saying this is what caused it. This is what caused whatever 49ers issues are happening. You can't come back from this.
How about after trading for the 3rd pick in the draft, trying to then trade that pick for Aaron Rodgers when he says he's unhappy in Green Bay? Basically telling the whole fucking world that you are not confident who the fuck you're taking, not knowing.
People thought they were going to take Mac Jones.
No one knew who they were going to take. Like, and they probably would have taken Zach Wilson if he fell. They had no clue. They didn't trade up to get a guy. They just traded up to try and get a guy. They didn't think they had.
You know what happened, Sage? They got their ass kicked by Josh Allen, and Kyle Shanahan said, wow, I think you. Exactly. It's completely full circle. But he's like, wow, maybe I don't need a Kirk Cousins kind of drop back quarterback. Maybe I need a quarterback who can run a little bit, extend the play, have a little mobility aspect to this offense. So he gets Trey Lance. 1 rushing touchdown in his entire career.
And Chase, like, we saw it. Like, I was never the Trey Lance guy, but I always wanted to just see him, have confidence, like, be like, okay, like, you traded all this to get him, right? Like, let me just see him on the field. And they were hiding it till it became like apparent to the entire fan base. Like, they don't think this guy is good. So what, I understand it was COVID, but what talent evaluation did you do on this guy? Like, what did you see in him from your YouTube highlights? Because it was COVID. You couldn't really get him in the building and like, try and test him out, like, see what he does in your system, whatever. And you trade all these assets, and it fucked you.
Think about all
backwards into Brock Purdy, and that's the only reason Shanahan still has his job. I genuinely believe that.
Think about all the times that he's fucked up in quarterback evaluation. Jimmy G.
It's disgusting.
Jimmy G. Saw him for 5 games, signed him to a big deal. CJ Beathard. He drafted him in the 3rd round. He genuinely thought CJ Beathard could be a successful quarterback in the NFL. Then, not only did you draft Trey Lance, a lot of inside people close with the Shanahans confirmed that they wanted to pick Mac Jones. So even if that is the case, even if you got scared off of picking Mac Jones, you initially wanted to go with him, and look at him. He's terrible too. So you would have whiffed on Mac Jones. You completely whiffed on Trey Lance. And yeah, Sage, they fell ass backwards into Brock Purdy. So the thing with me is that there's like almost no reason for me to believe that if we don't sign Brock Purdy, how can we trust Shanahan to make the right decision with another quarterback?
I mean, you hope that the roster's built to where it's like a Rams situation where you bring in like a Stafford. I'm not saying Matt Stafford, but like that type of situation where you bring in a Stafford, like a veteran quarterback who's not happy with their situation. Someone, I don't even know like who it could be. Like maybe it's like Stroud in a few years, or maybe it's Lawrence in a few years if you'd even want him. Like whoever it may be, like a good quarterback that's in a shitty situation that just wants to get out. Has that ever really worked in NFL history? Like there's a few examples. Like there's a few, but it's for like the high end quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like even Drew Brees, like, right? Because that's the person that people want to draw comparisons to Purdy. He needed to change the scenery, right? He went to New Orleans, but you saw it. Like what helped him? He played in a fucking dome, right? That's what Purdy needs. He like I feel like San Francisco maybe might not be for him.
I will say, I mean, we do get good weather in the NFC West. Like, I mean, maybe you get some rain up in Seattle, but if Brock Purdy was in the AFC, he'd have
That
genuine issues. You got to play in KC, Buffalo, New England. He would not be able to handle that. He wouldn't. What's that?
That Heat game was in Santa Clara.
That's true. I mean, the Heat game was definitely the one that wasn't really the number one bad weather game that you think about with Purdy. It's clearly going to be that Cleveland game, the Green Bay playoff game where he was shaky at the start, and this game definitely took the cake for that. So,
no, I just don't get it. Like, I don't understand the whole you're next on the list, like you deserve the top market. Like, I think that, like, you just see, like, the bad organizations are fucking it for everyone. Like, Deshaun Watson's the highest paid quarterback at one point. Russell Wilson's the highest paid quarterback at one point. Now it's Dak Prescott. Like, Trevor Lawrence was for like a day until Jordan Love got it. So it's like you can't follow the trends of these bad organizations, minus the Packers, because the Packers aren't a bad organization. But you look at what all these other teams are doing, and it's just like fucking the market for the rest of the league. And I'm pro player, like, I get it. Like, try and take as much money as you can from these billionaires. I'm for it. But when you clearly don't deserve it and you're hurting your team, like, look at Purdy. Purdy has to look himself in the mirror and realize, like, if I take this money, right, my roster's depleted. They're cutting around the edges. There's no young talent to support me. And we're just losing guys left and right now. I mean, would you be shocked? Like, would it shock you if Christian McCaffrey's never the same now? Like,
well, we don't know. So we don't know the news on Christian McCaffrey yet. His dad went on the Kay Adams show and said that he strained his PCL, and they're hoping for the best
guess. I don't understand it. She gets the best guess. Like, whenever you need,
you
like,
know exactly why.
Yeah,
no, you say you don't know why, but you know exactly why.
It's like, oh, Devontae Adams just got traded to the Jets. Like, who's going to get his first interview? Kay Adams. Like, who's going to get Aaron Rodgers? Kay Adams. KD, unhappy.
I was about to say, KD's never given a good interview in his life, and he's, like, genuinely, like, a good interview on Kay Adams every single week.
No, it's hilarious. But
shout out Kay Adams. Good for her. But
I wish it was that easy for other demographics. But
exactly.
But going back to it, right? You look at how it's, like, set up, how the talent's going down. Say McCaffrey's the same. Are we sure Dre Greenlaw's going to be the same? Are we sure Brandon Ayuk's going to be the same? Like, it's big ifs. Like, Hufanga, so a guy you were counting on to be a cornerstone at your safety, can't get on the fucking field anymore. George Kittle's getting older. One fucking catch this game. Like, it made no impact really on it.
So,
like,
Stager, I think this is the perfect time to kind of loop this in.
Go for it.
You brought up what happens with McCaffrey. What happens with these other aging players for the 49ers? If you're John Lynch, if you're Kyle Shanahan, because let's be honest, guys, we could all call for Shanahan's job. We could call for Lynch's job.
Is he on the hot seat, you think?
No.
Okay. I don't think so either, to be honest.
He's not on the hot seat.
I don't think this is on him.
I'm not going to argue that maybe he doesn't deserve to have a little heat on him, but the fact is that Jed York's not going to get rid of Kyle Shanahan. But that's not happening, guys. So what I'm asking is, what does John Lynch do? What does Kyle Shanahan do over the next couple years? What happens with this 49ers team? Because the teams that we saw the past 5 years that have been going on these deep playoff runs,
they don't exist.
It's going to get trimmed up. It's going to get trimmed up.
They don't exist anymore. That team from last year just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, you look at it from top to bottom. It's completely different. It's a completely different team. And we saw it last year, sort of. You know what's so funny is we had issues with that D-line all year. That's why they traded for Chase Young. And the D-line was terrible against the Packers. It was terrible against the Lions, and then played their best game in that Super Bowl. Out of nowhere. Like, that first half, that was the best game the D-line had. That was the best the D-line had looked all
Steve
year.
Wilkes was getting a lot of flack, but he kept that Chiefs offense in check for most of the game. I think they scored their first touchdown late in the third quarter.
Yeah, like, they were not moving the ball well on us at all. You're stopping the run. You forced a turnover on Mahomes. I mean, you won the turnover battle on offense, defense. Obviously, your special teams gave one up, but actually the McCaffrey fumble too. But you just kind of look at, like, how the D line has digressed, and you look at Chase's point earlier. It starts when you trade Buckner, and then Armstead. He just gave you a career year in 2019. Gets injured, hasn't been the same since. So you lose your two key cornerstones at the D tackle, which immediately fucks up the entire defense because now you can't stop the run. You start to get gashed. Teams start to run it at Bosa. It fucks up your entire offense, right? And from then, like, you lose your identity because you're no longer tough in the trenches. Your offensive line has never been strong, right? Your
2019,
yeah.
I would say that was great O-line.
Yeah. That 2019 team, man, like, they had it. They were just a few few small tweaks away. And they
I mean, I think that's what they need to do over the next couple of years, Sage.
No, they're nowhere near that, dude. They're nowhere near that.
I'm saying you got to try to get that back. I mean, that's got to be the strategy of the 49ers because you got to trim some edges, right? I mean, Deebo Samuel, Javon Hargrave, Kyle Juszczyk, Mooney Ward, gone. Gone. Those guys can't be on the team next year. They can't.
I agree.
And that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to trim the edges.
Chase, what makes you think they're going to change their philosophy this year? Coming into this year, Chase,
this may be a blessing in disguise. This may be a blessing in disguise. What's happened to this Niners team because it's going to force them to realize that they got to change something up.
Bro, they had their first round pick in 3 fucking years, and they drafted a busted receiver when receiver coming into this year was arguably your deepest fucking position. Like, I don't think they know what they're doing. Their philosophy, their whole not prioritizing O-line. They're always going to prioritize the people who score touchdowns. How are you going to score touchdowns when you can't fucking protect your quarterback? When you can't establish the run game because you can't block?
So you have no faith in Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch to realize what's going on? You think they're just going to fucking roll it back next year?
No, I think they know what's going on, but I don't know. Like, I believe, like, I think they're smart. I think that they understand what's going on. But what am I, Chase? I'm a results guy. And what have the results and what has everything shown me? Like, what has the history shown me? That they're not going to change their philosophy. They're not. Like, I can't see them going and being like, you know what? We need a full, like, takedown of our O-line, D-line. Get Brundle out of town. Get McKivitz out of town. Like, get some new, fresh talent in. And, like, build up these lines. Like, that's how the Eagles, like, do it. That's how the Steelers do it. You know what's funny? When I was watching that Friday game and I saw, like, Max Crosby 300 or whatever consecutive snaps, like, how is it, like, in Bosa can only play, like, 60% of snaps? Like, I just, like, don't get it. Like, the Raiders D-line isn't good, but they have that guy on every fucking snap, right? I know I'm kind of going crazy here, but it's just, like, you know, you think, looking around the league, like, thinking, like, seeing how these teams build around the league. And I don't know, the Niners are just so opposite. Like, all the top teams, like the Eagles, kick your ass in the trenches. Detroit, kick your ass in the trenches. Chiefs, kick your ass in the trenches. The Bills, kick your ass.
That's what they're going to have to try to get to, Sage. That's what they're going to have to try to get to. I mean, we brought up that 2019 offensive line. I think it's a lot simpler than you bring up. Like you brought up earlier in the show, you said, we're not even close to that Philadelphia team. Sage, you don't get how much money is going to guys like Deebo, Javon Hargrave, Mooney Ward, Juszczyk. That's probably going to come out to about like 7 mil or 70 mil that you could use to get guys on the O-line, to get depth on that D-line, maybe to get a safety, replace fucking Jair Brown, who's garbage. There's a route. It's just like you brought up, and maybe you're right, Sage. Maybe you're right. I mean, based on what I've seen in the past, it seems like you will be right. It all comes down to, will Kyle Shanahan, will John Lynch make those tough calls to just cut off guys like Deebo Samuel, cut off guys like Kyle Juszczyk, who have been around since the start of this championship window and are clearly not the same guys. That's what Bill Belichick did. Do they have the balls to do it?
Everyone wants to say it. Get rid of a guy a year too early before a year too late. I mean, easier said than done. I need to see the Niners do it. Kyle is too loyal to a fault.
He is.
He's too loyal to a fault.
You can't be friends with guys in the NFL when you're the head coach. You can't.
Exactly.
You can't be going down to San Diego for 4th of July with them.
Yeah, the Cabo clique, as people say, they fucking vacation together. The video of Kyle throwing the football between the rooftops. Like, I don't want that type of atmosphere. Like, even look at Tomlin. Like, you look at Tomlin. And
Bill Belichick never had dinner with Tom Brady. Never just like, hey, Tom, just got done with meetings at 11 o'clock, one-on-one with you. Want to go grab a bite to eat? Not once. Not once.
And I get it, because you could argue, like, you look at how Andy Reid runs his locker room. There's different philosophies, but when you're like the greatest offensive like pass caller of the past like 25 years, then maybe you could get away with it. But just looking at it, right? Just looking at it, you look at how the Niners have like kind of built their team and established their I guess culture, and now you're just going away from it. What got you to this point in years past? Because I'm not even going to say this is part of it, but it's building the trenches and being a tough team. And you just don't have that anymore. So, I mean,
you brought it up, the identity. Gone.
You take this opportunity and you kind of build it. And what I was going to say earlier about Tomlin is, like, I don't want to get off Shanahan because I like, look at the Steelers, man. Like, I like what they have. Like, I like having consistency. I don't like bad companies, turnover, right? Turnover is what kills a company. It's what puts like someone under, because you have someone who's bad for the job, it could take your entire year. I mean, you look at it with Chip Kelly, Tom Sula for a year, like it's awful. Chase, you're laughing at me, but
You're like
you know
Colin Cowherd. You're connecting the business world to sports. I love it. I love
no, but
it.
it's true. I mean, like, what makes like a good organization, like something that has like low risk, is when you have consistency, you have structure at the top, right? It's good to have that. I just think what's fucking Kyle over is he just has that new coach syndrome. Where like whenever he's like, the Niners were the hot team, so people were just picking at his staff, right? And now his, like, you see it, like Mike McDaniels, right? He's kind of falling on his face right now on the hot seat. Robert Salah kind of got fired. D'Amico Ryans, conversations are going to be had about him because he might not be that good of a coach. So
I don't know about that, Sage. I don't know if I would can D'Amico just yet. I think D'Amico's a good coach.
Okay, maybe. But you kind of look around and you kind of see like, okay, maybe this will start to stop. Like, and once you could kind of get consistency and structure. I mean, look at the Chiefs. Even with those shitty ass defenses they had at the beginning of the Mahomes era, they never quit on Spags. They never quit on him, and they let him build. They let him build it up, and you just need that. You need to either bring in a Salah, like bring in someone
100%. 100%.
Bring in someone like that who maybe flamed out as a coach, won't get picked off your roster, and could kind of build a culture, build an identity. Like I said with the Steelers, what makes the Steelers so special is they don't fire coaches. They keep them around, and they have a culture. They have an identity. You saw Tomlin fucking yelling at George Pickens. I mean, maybe we'll talk about the Steelers in our Fast 5, but maybe the biggest menace, like, on the field, like, and Tomlin just lays into him. You'll never see Shanahan do that with Debo because they're buddies. They don't want to ruin their friendship. So I don't know. A lot happened this week. Some good things, to be honest, but mainly bad. That just drowned it all out.
So I have 3 names, just going back to the defensive coordinator that you brought up. Robert Saleh, Jim Schwartz, Brian Flores.
Jim Schwartz, another one.
Give them the bank. I don't care how much it takes. You got to get Nick Sorensen out there. In order for this Niner team to try to make a deep playoff run next year and get back, maybe even over the next couple of years, because I don't think it's going to be a one-season fix. You're going to have to build an identity, get a trusted defensive coordinator, a guy like Jim Schwartz, a guy like Brian Flores, who have already flamed out as head coaches, probably don't even want to be a head coach again, almost like Spagnuolo. Get him in there. So they're there for a couple years, so they could build this defense, so they could build a system. That's how you're going to bring the Niners back, because I do have trust in Shanahan, whether it's going back to that zone run scheme, building up the O-line to do it. He's going to get this offense back to a point where they're elite. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback. I don't know if it's going to be Brock Purdy, but if he made it to the Super Bowl and an NFC Championship game with Jimmy Garoppolo, I trust that he could get us back there. You just got to build up this defense, because this defense is just honestly a bottom half defense right now. It went from a defense that was
bottom quarter,
top 5.
Honestly, bottom quarter.
It was top 5 for the past 5 years. You fired Steve Wilkes when he was 3rd in scoring defense. A lot of people would take that. A lot of teams wouldn't fire a guy for a season like that. You fired him because of the Niners standard on defense, that it wasn't up to standard. What is Nick Sorensen this year? Is that the standard?
The Nick Sorensen, Brandon Staley.
He's the guy in every single press conference. You have full trust in him. I don't see one scenario where he could scheme up any kind of stops on major third downs. Every single third and long they get. You got to get rid of him. He's a nightmare. He's a nightmare. You got to get somebody else in there, like a Schwartz or Flores.
Did you see the Shanahan interview with, I forget whoever the sideline chick is, but coming out of the first half, the question she asked him, did you see that? She was like, what impact is the weather making, essentially? And he just basically just goes, well, when you can't stop the run, like, the weather doesn't matter. He's like, we can't stop the run. We haven't been able to stop the run. And essentially just threw Sorensen under the bus. Like, you knew exactly what was coming. Like, even the Bills, like, they didn't shy away from it. They just ran, and you couldn't get any stop on it past that. After that first drive, they were running on you at will. I mean, the first play of their third drive, it was like a 65-yard run to James Cook. No one even could even smell his cleats. He was just dusting everyone. You just look old and slow, and you can't stop the run. You're going to get gashed every week. It's a good way. I said it. I said, Juszczyk fumbled, Debo fumbled, Kittle, 2 insanely bad drops. Trent Williams.
Bad drop on that 3rd and 10 around the 5-yard line. He was open on a screen. He probably had
Yeah.
20 yards of space.
Fred hurt, Bosa hurt, CMC hurt. Just felt like the end of an era. Honestly, kind of just felt like the end of an era there. You got embarrassed. Josh Allen gets fucking pulled with 13 minutes left. 13 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Josh Allen's on the sideline with his hat on, making jokes, sitting in front of the heater. Meanwhile, Purdy's still out there.
Doing snow angels at the end of the game.
Yeah,
Do you see
doing
that?
snow angels. Yeah, and Chase, what about this? The first play after the Purdy fumble. Do you remember what it was? On the pump fake.
Was it the Debo fumble
No,
on the
no,
kickoff?
No, I meant on defense. 12 men on the field on the defense. Absolutely, just hilarious.
Yep. Right back to it.
Just hilarious. It's like you kind of have some momentum, then boom, fumble, and then right away 12 men on the field. It's like, of fucking course. Of course. And then you have Collinsworth before that drive. Do you remember? He's like, oh, well, we've seen 28-3 before. You never know in the NFL. I'm just like, dude, shut up. Like, you've never seen this Niners defense. Like,
you've never seen 28-3 where it's 15 degrees, it's snowing, and no one can move the ball.
It's like, dude, they're about to get run out the fucking – oh, my God. They're about to get
Also,
run out
Tom
of
Brady's
New York.
not on the sideline for the 49ers.
Exactly, bro. It really doesn't get more embarrassing than that. Some bright spots. You kind of learn.
Do we
more
have
about
a bright
Brock.
spot? Can you find one bright spot from this game?
I think a few things, like
Mustafa?
organizationally. Mustafa, obviously. I mean, but what about him celebrating? I don't even. Whatever. He could celebrate. I guess.
We were down like 3 touchdowns and he
Yeah.
celebrated a big hit. Yeah, awesome.
I think like genuinely, right? Before you pay a quarterback, you want to make sure you're doing the right thing, and I think you learned a lot about Brock these past like 2 weeks about how your team looks without him. It's not good. But how your team looks with him again in like adverse conditions, like these are things you want to see. These are things you got to weigh into your consideration before you pay a guy. So I think that's like one bright spot. Isaac Guerrero, maybe a playmaker in space if you could get him the ball.
Did we bring that up yet today?
I don't think so. I think we've just been ragging on the team, but like I've been calling for, bro, get fucking Juszczyk off the field. If you want two people in the backfield,
Yeah, he's got to be done. He's got to be done.
I said it. I said, what happened to the creativity? Maybe the creativity left when Mike McDaniel left and he took it to Miami with him, but it's nice. Like, run their similar sets. Like, get two running backs on the field. Have a power guy who could go between the tackles, create some space, maybe bunch him up at the line, and then get a playmaker out in space. He misses one tackle. He's fucking hitting his head on the goalpost. And you saw Guerrero, like, quick little dump in the snow. No one could catch him. Sped right to the fucking pylon. I mean, it was the only touchdown you scored all game, and people have been calling for this guy to see the field because your offense is so slow. So maybe too little, too late. Maybe it's a mid to late season rebrand. There's still a way for the Niners to make the playoffs. There's no way they could win a playoff game, but you just got to see like what direction do you want to go? Do you want to be competitive, or do you want to kind of call it off and just try and get the best draft pick, go on Tankathon and see who you could get? Because there's a lot of directions this team could go.
I mean, Sage, okay.
Right now, if the season ended, you'd have the 14th pick. So it's not like you're doing much. You make the playoffs, you could still get the 16th or 17th pick. So maybe you just go for it. Who knows?
It's hard to see a bright future for this season. I mean, I know that you brought up that it's mathematically possible that they could win the NFC West. And who knows? Maybe they beat the Bears. Maybe they beat the Rams the next week. And then people actually get the juices flowing for the Niners again. It doesn't look like it. I mean, who knows? Based on the way they've been playing the past couple weeks, I don't think they beat 5 teams in the NFL. They just look like a bad football team. They look like a bad football team
in the NFC.
100%. This has been a season from hell, but the reality is that whatever 49ers team you've seen the past 5 years, that team's gone. That team's not coming back. Shanahan needs to retool it. John Lynch needs to hit in the draft. Cut a couple of the big guys. That's really what I see moving forward for the Niners. Sage, I know this is, shit. We're basically laying the 49ers out at their funeral. We're saying this is the end of an era. We're saying that the Super Bowl window's closed. I feel like if you give me a couple days, I'm going to be able to get hyped up for that Bears game. I mean, we're going up against Caleb Williams, who is your boy. I've been calling him the biggest bust all year.
Much improved.
So
that's good in that second half.
if you lose that game, that's my final stand. That's my Braveheart, like, hold the line. If we lose this one, I'm out. If we lose to Caleb Williams, I'm out, man. I'm going to pod for the sake of the pod, but it's going to be like 80% of me. I'm going to be like Christian McCaffrey all year on the pod.
Chase, losing to Josh Allen on the road in a snow game, coming off their bye, Purdy's a little banged up. There's excuses. Losing to Jordan Love on the road, backup quarterback, excuses. If
You're in
lose this
Lambeau.
game-
You're in
You
Lambeau.
lose this game. They just fired their fucking head coach. There's no interim head coach bump with these guys. They just fired their OC 3 weeks ago. Caleb Williams, who's been struggling all game. They struggle to run the ball every other week. And if they come into your city and beat you, maybe fire everyone.
Did you see Matt
Put
Eberflus?
TNT in the stadium and blow it up.
Did
with
you
the
see
team.
Matt Eberflus's press conference after the loss to the Lions on Thanksgiving?
No, because
He had an all-time quote. He had an all-time quote that you could look back on. He said,
What was it?
"I'm very confident I'll be the coach for the 49er game." Next day, fired.
Canned. Yeah, I mean, that guy's
Fired.
working at Chick-fil-A now. We'll see. I mean, we'll preview that game. I'll do it. It'll be bittersweet, turning the page on this week. But at the same time, like, how much juice do I have to, evaluate the Niners and dive
Because
into
you don't
it?
even know if Trent's coming back. You don't know if Bosa's coming back. Is this going to be the same lineup that we roll out against the Bears?
We saw the news about Trent's child passing away this morning. Thoughts and prayers to him.
What a fucking tragedy, man.
Just
God hates the 49ers.
It's just not looking good for anything. So prayers to him. Prayers to all our players that got hurt. Everyone, trying to come back.
Prayers to all the
fan
fans.
base. Yeah, prayers to the fan base too, man. Like, they need it too. Like, they're going through it just as bad. Like, there's 49ers fans who traveled to Buffalo. 49ers fans who traveled to Buffalo to watch that shit.
They
Sat
should get
in
paid
fucking
back. They genuinely
2
should
feet of
get their
snow.
money back.
It's embarrassing, bro. And they're fucking raising season tickets. Oh my god, just not a good time to be a Niner fan. I mean, if you've been a Niners fan, it's a roller coaster. And right now you're on the down.
All right,
So you go
Sager.
down, gotta go up. The Phoenix
I
rises
think-
from the ashes.
I think that's where we got to cap it. So that's our discussion for that Niners-Bills game. I mean, me and Sage are not positive right now. We talked about how did we get here.
Positive in a few years.
You haven't been positive in a few years. I'll give you that. We talked about how did we get here. We're talking about what is the future for the 49ers. A lot of uncertainty. A situation where a couple weeks ago, Sage, we were thinking about how are we going to get to the top of the NFC West, potentially make a playoff run. These past 2 losses to the Packers and to the Bills have taken away all that energy. Maybe something changes with a win against Chicago. But it's not looking like it. Not a good time to be a 49ers fan. And just sad. Sad.
Not
It
just
makes-
losses, just how you lost. That's what's giving us no hope.
All right, Sage. Let's just do a hard cut right here. We're going to come back later in the week, give you a preview of the game against the Bears. And now we're going to dive into the rest of the league.